All right, guys. We talked about that anatomy. Now let's talk about that functions. Okay? So, boom. You got really three main ways that food is broken down by the digestive system. You got mechanical, chemical, and then like enzymes. Okay, so what are our teeth doing? These are obviously, they mechanically break down food. That is the function of these. Mechanically break down food. And like, I'm going to be doing this all on the same drawing, but for you guys, like, you might want to like redraw just this head here on a page and like put these functions here and the rest of the functions of all the stuff in the head. You know, you can quickly redraw this, doesn't take that long. And for the function stuff, you might want to boom, 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 have it be nice and big on a single page is what I would recommend doing. Okay, why do we need to mechanically break down our food? Well, we need to be able to swallow it. We need to be able to swallow the food, get it inside of us, right? I can't put an entire cow inside of me, but I could slowly chew it into smaller pieces to get it inside of me. Okay? Makes it easier to digest. What does that mean? What does digest mean? Make it smaller, right? Eventually, it needs to get in our cells. So we got to make it smaller. Right? How is our cell going to eat or bring in or use the protein inside of a peanut? Even just one peanut, one cell can't eat a peanut. So we need to turn that into smaller little peanut chunks. And this process of getting into our cells is we got to make it smaller so we can absorb it. Absorb it. All right, so that's why we chew things. Just right there, right at the top, chewing stuff. Your tongue can also mechanically break some stuff down just by moving it around. So your tongue also functions to mechanically. So this helps you manipulate your food. Manipulate and mechanically break down. Like it's like an assister. It assists with your teeth. We'll make that real small and just put it there. And I'll break down food. All right. Okay, salivary glands. What do these bad boys do? Right? Pretty obvious. They secrete saliva. I don't know how to spell saliva. I think that's right. I feel like it's this. But that doesn't seem right. No. Secrete. That's secret. I don't know. Secrete saliva. Secrete means to expel or squirt saliva. So your salivary glands secrete saliva. And what is this? What is saliva? What is this bad boy? So spit. Well, what does it contain? What is the purpose of this? Well, first of all, it is mostly water. And water itself is actually a digestive thing. Mostly water, which helps break down food. Okay? And we're going to do a little experiment on that right now. I got a piece of bread here. Some artisanal golden wheat. I don't know. I've not done this experiment ever before. That's a piece of bread right there. There it is. Pretty solid. I'm going to take this piece of bread and I'm just going to put it in this jar of water. And we're going to let it go. We're going to let it digest just the water alone. See how it digests in the amount of time it takes to do this lecture. Okay, that's just water. Promise I didn't spit in that jar. Although if I did, that'd be an interesting experiment to do. And maybe I'll actually do that. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. And I got a second jar. I mean, I spit in this one a bunch. Why would I do that? Well, I'll tell you in a second here. But I'm going to put bread in this one. The other one's actually been in there longer, a little bit, so it's not quite full science. But all right, I got this bread with some water and my spit. All right, we'll let those cook. Okay. What else does saliva contain? Well, it's mostly water, but it also contains an enzyme. Enzyme called amylase, which, if you remember, we've talked about this before. This breaks down starch. So your saliva is already going to work to break down starch right off the bat. It also helps kind of lubricate the food so you can swallow it. It also helps lubricate food. Saliva does. For swallowing. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. And if you don't remember what an enzyme does, it breaks things down or builds things up. So we go all the way back here. That's right. I do this a lot because I'm trying to show you how this all builds off of each other constantly. And the things that I taught you back here are going to be useful again in the future. Look at this. Oh, when we're talking about sugars. Oh, an enzyme will have a specific shape to bring two molecules together or to split two molecules apart. So this enzyme that we're talking about, rather than helping build the sugar, it's going to be breaking it down. And it's called amylase. I didn't actually talk about it over here, but we're talking about starch, which is the energy storage system in plants. This is starch here. And so this amylase protein breaks down this polysaccharide into monosaccharides. Pretty cool. It's pretty cool how this all comes together. Okay. All right. So your saliva, your spit, it's doing some crazy stuff. It's lubricating the food. It's helping digest via two methods, with the water and with amylase. Okay. So just up here, things like sugar, other small compounds like nicotine and alcohol. So like right in your mouth, if you eat sugar, you're also bringing it into your bloodstream, into your cells, and into your bloodstream. It's absorbed, it's brought in. All right. Starch. I think that's kind of all I want to cover. Starch, things that are made out of starch. Let's put that on there. It's always good to remind you guys. Bread, obviously, so like wheat, like potatoes, wheat, rice, pasta. It's usually made out of wheat. Pasta. Potatoes. Those are made of starch. Okay. Let's keep on cruising now. So now we got our esophagus. So our food, we swallow it, epiglottis closes, and then boom, now it's down here. Okay? And this esophagus is not just a tube. It's not just a tube. Not just a tube. And when I was in preschool, the preschool people made me stand on my head against the wall and eat an apple and swallow it upside down. And that terrified me. I felt like I was going to die. But I didn't. And this is why. So your esophagus, I'm going to bring a little piece of this over. Like so. So we got our food that we've swallowed coming down through our esophagus. Like so. Okay. And we'll call this our little food bolus is what it's called. It's our little chewed food. Same one, I just kind of drew it differently in each one. And your esophagus and the rest of your digestive tract is lined with smooth muscle. So you don't have voluntary control over this. Remember, smooth muscle, they're these long, spindly boys. They're not striated. They look something like that. And they got a little nucleus. Okay? Hi. I'm a smooth muscle cell. Pretty cool. All right, so we got a bunch of these. What just happened? We got a bunch of smooth muscle lining all around the digestive system. All around it. It's wrapped around it. You know, I'm kind of drawing this real simple and basic or whatever, but you get the idea, okay? And so these are going to be relaxed up here. So these will relax. They're sorry, actually, these ones are here are relaxed, relaxed, smooth muscle. Whereas these ones right here are contracting, smooth muscle. Okay? And just like I could take, I don't know, did I have any little, I could take this little tube right here and I can go like this and contract behind it and push stuff through it. That's exactly what your smooth muscle is doing. Like, it's a wave of contraction that goes down and it'll push the food down the esophagus or up the esophagus if you're standing on your head in preschool. Where the slogan on my preschool pennant was touching children, reaching families. The 80s were different. Okay, this process of the kind of contracting versus relaxed smooth muscle is called peristalsis. This thing here is called a food bolus. Food bolus. An alternating wave-like motion of smooth muscle contraction that pushes the food bolus is called peristalsis. Stallysis. So close. It's an A. Okay. Peristalsis. Know that one. Peristalsis. So if you ever if you ever hear your guts or like lay your head on somebody's belly and listen to their guts, you're listening to peristalsis. You're listening to those smooth muscles contracting and moving air around and liquid around in your or somebody's digestive system. And this is what it makes it an active process. Digestion takes energy to do it. You get energy out of it, of course, but it takes a lot of energy to break down all this food. Okay, and we're just started. So that's all really just in the mouth and the esophagus so far. All right, let's get into the stomach. All right, so the stomach's full of, I'm sure you guys know, it's full of stomach acid. Stomach acid, which is hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid, which is just HCl, and you dissociate these into H plus and Cl minus. So you get a proton and a chloride ion. Okay? Its pH is around 2, something like that. It's very acidic. I wrote it down over there. I don't need to go back. Doesn't matter. I don't care that you know the pH for this one. Okay? And it's doing a couple other things. So let's see. So the stomach breaks down food in a few ways. I'll just keep it at that. Breaks down food. And also stores food for some time. We don't often think of it that way, but it is a storage center for food. Like if you got a lot of food around you and you got to keep moving, you can actually, overload your stomach and it'll stretch out. You'll also can absorb things like sugar and alcohol. Sugar and alcohol. All absorbable in your stomach. All right, now let's kind of go through this process. So what is the purpose of this acid? Well, one of the main things that it's used for is denaturing proteins. Okay? Denaturing proteins. I don't know if you remember what that means. But proteins have a three-dimensional shape. Right? They're folded up and they do some kind of function when they're folded up like this. So this would be a folded protein. And then this would be a denatured protein. Now it's a straight line. This would be a denatured protein. Folded protein, denatured protein. And HCl assists this process. So denatures proteins. All right? So that's one thing that your stomach is doing, is it's unfolding proteins. If proteins were just all folded up like this, we couldn't break them down and use them for energy or use them for building blocks for ourselves. So that's one thing that it's doing. The other thing that it's doing is you have specialized cells here all on the edge of the stomach. Don't have time to go into all of this, but they secrete another enzyme. So just like amylase broke down starch, the stomach secretes an enzyme to break down protein called pepsin. Okay, so now we've got this nice denatured protein here. And we got this little pepsin. Let me draw this bad boy like so. He's gonna come through and he's gonna go and chop that boy up. Okay, so we got pepsin there. Okay, so pepsin comes through and chews this bad mamma jamma up. So now it's in these smaller little chunks. Oh. Okay, so what you're telling me is that molecular teeth, you can think of an enzyme as like a molecular mouth, and it's chewing things up to make it smaller. So we made things smaller by chewing it, and now we're making things smaller by first unfolding them, denaturing them with stomach acid to open them up, because protein needs to have a proper pH to be able to be folded correctly. So we put it in real low pH and it opens up. And then we hit it with this pepsin to break it down. Pretty crazy, pretty cool. So now we got these little protein fragments, all right? And these little protein fragments, along with everything else, you know, maybe we got some sugars, and maybe we've also got some lipids. I don't want to make those in blue. We'll make them in pink. Doesn't matter. All right. Now we got all this digested food. Very small digested food. This thing here is called chyme. So when you have digested food inside of the stomach and then moving on, that is called chyme. So if you throw up and you see like this like mixture, it's like not solid anymore. It's like this mixture of gooey, yummy vittles. That's chyme. I think it's a cool word. All right. Okay, and the stomach is also surrounded by smooth muscle. The stomach is also surrounded by smooth muscle. And smooth muscle contractions churn. That's the word. Churn stomach contents to help break it down. So that is a mechanical, again, another mechanical process. These smooth muscle contractions, churning this stuff. Okay? So there's really three things that your stomach is doing to break down food. Three things your stomach is doing to, or mechanisms to break down food. Number one is low pH, high acidity to unfold proteins. Two is pepsin enzyme to break down proteins. And three, mechanical churning. Okay? Your stomach is a breakdown center. It's not really absorption or anything like that. It's a little bit of storage. You can store food in there by eating a crap load at once, and your stomach will slowly release it over time. Okay. So an interesting thing is if you look at this, your esophagus is on kind of one side of your stomach. So if you ever lay on your, I am a side sleeper, I like to sleep on my side. So if you sleep on your side, you actually want to lay on your left side if you just recently ate. You don't want to lay on your right side because that would put this on the bottom. You want it to be on the top, like on the side facing away from the bed. So if you lay on your left side, this part is more towards your heart, more towards the middle. And so it'll be facing on the top. So then all of this liquid will be here, and rather than it being covering this. You'll have less indigestion, acid reflux, and stuff that way. So something like acid reflux or GERD or any of that is this, having a real full stomach, eating really bad foods like high in grease and fat and like overly spicy chocolate, alcohol, all that stuff can kind of help your stomach caffeine, make way too much stomach acid. Caffeine actually stimulates stomach acid production. Any of that stuff, plus some genetic things together, then you get some acid splashing up on this, up into your esophagus. That's no good. You get a little verp. You get a little acid coming up here. No good. So that's what acid reflux is. Definitely have had that in my life. And the older you get, the more you get it. So take care of your little cardiac sphincter now, because the more that you get it, the less this thing will tend to work. And so then it's like a feedback loop where it continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse. My grandfather had it. It was terrible for him. Okay. So then what happens is your pyloric sphincter opens up, and this chyme now rolls through. Okay? So now we've got our little chyme, and it's a mixture, really. This is a mixture of macromolecules, right? It's protein, it's sugar, it's fat, if you ate something that has all of those. It's all of them. So now that's rolling through here. I'll make it like this. And it's pink. And it's green. Okay, so now it's released in the duodenum. It's very low pH here. So we have a couple of things that we need to accomplish. Number one is we got to neutralize that pH. All right, and the pancreas does that. Pancreas neutralizes, and this is like the very special part of the small intestine, the duodenum. This is all happening here. Very pancreas. So it releases a chemical to neutralize the stomach acid, because we don't want that acid rolling through the rest of our digestive system. Okay? It also secretes enzymes. It also secretes enzymes. So we got more enzymes, and there are 3 types that it secretes. It secretes more amylase as well as some others, so more sugar, enzymes that break down sugar, enzymes in addition to amylase, enzymes that break down sugar, not sugar, proteases, which break down protein, enzymes that break down protein, proteases, and then enzymes that break down lipids. Sometimes a lipases. Okay? So we got our 3 main macromolecules that you'll find on the back of the labels. Turns out our pancreas makes enzymes to break down all of these. Okay, the pancreas, and it's going to squirt all that stuff right into the duodenum. So the enzymes, do it red. Boom. Enzymes from pancreas. Okay? Right? So they're going to meet this and start to break it down even further. Get it even into smaller little pieces. Okay? Basically down to the tiny little building blocks like amino acids, fatty acids, simple sugars. That's what we're looking for. Okay? The pancreas also does something else really important, which is very important later in your bloodstream for absorption. We don't really have time to go into super detail on this. Pancreas. Did I spell that wrong up there? I did. This is your pancreas. Pancreas also has specialized cells called beta cells that release or secrete insulin. And insulin helps bring in sugar from your bloodstream. So sugar can't just enter into cells. It needs a partner. It's a partner to bring in sugar from your bloodstream. So this insulin goes into your bloodstream with your sugar as well. So it's also doing that. And then that's not happening right there. Okay, so that's huge. We got all this enzymatic release. This thing is neutralizing the stomach acid and making insulin. Your pancreas is super important. Okay? All right, now the liver. All right, in this context, I'll talk more about the liver in a minute, but in this context, well, we'll just mention it. Detoxifying. It's a detoxifying organ. So it breaks down harmful things. Like alcohol, for example. Okay? Alcohol is a poison. It will kill you in very small doses. And your liver, without your liver, you'd be dead if you drink alcohol. It would take way too long to urinate it all out. Your liver is breaking it down and you're urinating it out. And I'll talk more about that, why the liver is so important for that in a second. But the liver also makes bile, which is very fascinating. Bile, we'll talk about it here. But your liver also makes the bile. Sorry, I'm getting excited. Okay? Your gallbladder stores bile. What is bile? Well, bile is actually your old red blood cells, and your liver converts it into something called bile, or bile salts, and they help emulsify fat. So what is bile? Bile emulsifies fat. What does that mean? What does emulsify mean? Make fat droplets smaller. That's what it means. Okay? So we got a big fat droplet, let's say here. And we add some bile. We add bile. And now we've got smaller fat droplets. It basically surrounds the big droplet and breaks it up into smaller little droplets. I'll draw the bile in green. So this be our bile. And so now we've gone from this to something like this. Because the bile surrounds these droplets and makes them smaller. And this allows us to absorb fat better. Okay, so that's how bile functions. Beautiful. Okay, and so that gallbladder is storing the bile, and it will release the bile. And then this will go down here, meet with, actually, I drew that wrong. That would actually, it actually comes down here, and then it'd be released there. Okay. Bile. And you can live without your gallbladder. You just then can't eat really fatty food. So it actually shares the same duct with the pancreas. Okay, so that's what's happening at your duodenum because of your gallbladder, your liver, and your pancreas. That's pretty crazy stuff. Okay? Large intestine or small intestine. We'll come back to this one, but the main function of this is to absorb nutrients. To bring in all this stuff that we've now broken down, right? We've broken it all down. Now we're trying to absorb these nutrients. Okay? And then real easy, we're going to come back to the colon, but the main function of the colon is to reabsorb water. Okay. Pretty crazy. Obviously, rectum and anus, is to seal us off from the outside world. We're going to come back to the appendix in the next one. Okay, so that's the main kind of functions of all this stuff. You now know way more about how you digest food and extract things out of your food than most of the planet does. Okay, let's check in on our breads here. We'll see. I don't know, I've never done this experiment, so we'll see how this is. Okay. That's pretty gross. It still looks like a piece of bread. We'll keep this going for the rest of the day. This is just the water jar. We'll see how it does. This is just water. Okay, we'll see how the digestion works. Just water. Here we got. Well, I can tell you this, it already seems cloudier. Maybe not. All right, this is water in my spit, which will contain amylase. Oh boy. Well, it's already falling apart more, seemingly. Okay. Well, let's keep that one cooking. We'll keep those cooking for the rest of the lectures. We got water, and then we got water and spit. I recommend doing weird science. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one.